Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sam Houston Sports Talk Podcast. The day after 4th of July, I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. Hopefully, y'all didn't lose any fingers because that tends to happen quite a lot this time of year, and I wonder why. But it's Collin, Neill, Luke Scott, as always, joining us today. Former Sam Houston tight end, walked on all the way back in 2018, so he's been there, done that. He just finished off his playing career at UIW Incarnate Word in San Antonio. Dalton Meyer joins us. Dalton, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on. I've seen a lot of the podcasts and it's been really cool. Me and Ryan Humphreys, we did Walk on Radio in the beginning, and to see a lot of programs come after that, it's been really exciting to watch, and I've been a big fan, so I'm excited to get rolling.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
if there's one thing that Sam just needs more of, it's more content. You see all these schools all around, they create so much. You just felt like there was a space there. So to kind of, try our own thing, but also similar to what's been out there today and what's before us. So
Yeah, I think with the transition to Conference USA and FBS, there's a lot of things that Sam Houston's got to catch up on, and that's just the way of the business. And I definitely think that, radio and video production will be something that has to make a big step. And I've seen a lot of things go on, of course, on Twitter, Sports of SHSU. He's been doing a great job for a while. I know there's March 2nd, the pod. So there's a lot of things that have been going on, and I'm excited to see it as it improves and more stuff to keep promoting and showing Sam Houston athletics and everything in between.
Well, Dalton, like I said, you've been here, you've done that, and now your playing career is over. Now you're looking to branch out into the coaching world. Just what's it been like over these ever since when you got to Sam and to now? You went from playing, and then you were a GA this past spring. Just kind of bring us through what it was like, because you've been through a lot of the transition yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always say that for me, I was part of three generations of Sam Houston. I was part of I call it the blue era, where I was kind of towards that back end when we still had blue as our color with our old logo, where we were, a couple games from making playoffs, but not very successful. And then I was part of the national championship squad where we were able to go undefeated and win the national championship, be the one seed the next year and win another conference championship and get really close to playing. And then I was able to be part of a little bit of the transition part, the part Conference USA, and being part of that group. So being able to be a part of three different generations of Sam Houston has been so cool and very exciting. And then to branch off into the coaching world and kind of see the behind the scenes of it, and being in the coaching's office and being in a staff meeting and seeing how it's done from behind the scenes, it's been really exciting. And I didn't think I was going to be a coach. My mom always told me that I was, and every time I ran away from it, I kept getting sucked back in. So, I love it. I had a great time this spring being with the guys and being able to coach, especially because some of my closest friends are still on the team. I played with Ethan Hagler, who's the starting center, and now he's one of my good friends. And even some of the younger guys on the O line, like Cole Dietrich and Will Hutchins, guys that I got to see come in. Thomas Jewett, tight end. I was his host for his official visit. So to see these guys grow up and be able to see that as a coach and kind of guide them on their journey to do things that I did, it was really fun. And unfortunately, I didn't get to be there as long as I wanted to, but that's kind of the way the business is. You never know what's going to happen. But I'm grateful for my time at Sam Houston, all 5 years of playing, and then my semester of coaching. And we'll see where we end up next. I've had a couple people that I've talked to, and I'm really excited for the journey where I end up and how the coaching world goes.
So how different is it when you grow up a player your whole life, and then right after you're done, you turn into a GA and a coach? How different is it from that side, obviously being a coach, than just being a football player, a former walk-on? You did all of that. How different is it?
Well, as much as different it is it seems to be very the same, because I walked on, so I started at the bottom of the barrel. I had to work my way up, earn a scholarship, become a starter, And so once you get in the coaching world, you're right back at the bottom. It's a process. It takes a long time to get to where you want to be. And you have to be an intern. You have to be a graduate assistant. You have to work your way back up. So kind of jumping right back into the graduate assistant role, it was just like walking on again. I had to make the scripts. I had to work the scout team. I have to build the playbooks online and cut tape. So it was very difficult in the beginning. You're just getting a lot of jobs and not really being taught anything, just kind of catch on and learn from the others. And so it's been fun, and it's been different because, for me at least, and it's something that I probably should have done more of, but I was focused on tight end. I was focused on my job. I was focused on my route, on my blocking assignment. And once you kind of step into the coaching world, you have to know everything. I was the offensive line GA, but I need to know the routes. I need to know what the route tree is, where the quarterback's looking for his reads, because how long are the tackles going to have to be blocking one-on-one? If the third read is going to be the option that they go to, you have to be able to block for a long time. So just kind of learning the entire playbook and being able to understand the whole play, that was something that I definitely had to jump into. And then, at some point I might have to coach defense. I've always been told that knowing the other side of the ball is important for coaching. And so at any point I could become a defensive GA. And now all of a sudden I'm learning a whole nother side of the ball that I never played before. So it's just a lot. It's a lot to learn, and it's a lot to do because, like I said, you're starting from the bottom, you're working your way back up, but it's a grind, and I've done it before, and I'm excited to do it again.
What's the end goal for you when it comes to the coaching side of things?
Man, everyone says head coach. I don't want to be a coordinator. And of course, that's me being young, and that could change later down the line, but I don't necessarily have goals to be an offensive coordinator. I would like to be a head coach. So, to get to head coach, you normally have to be a coordinator. So we'll kind of see where my route goes, whether I go into a personnel side, a recruiting side, then work my way up. While I was being a GA, one thing I really fell in love with was recruiting. I enjoy recruiting. It's really fun to kind of scout and find guys both in the portal and in high school. So, maybe I'll end up a director of recruiting, a general manager, player personnel. But, of course, the end goal is to be a head coach. I just love being around the players and being around the guys. And that's something I want to do. But, I'm going to have to be a coordinator at some point. So maybe I'll end up liking it more. But, man, I don't, I have a lot of respect for offensive coordinators because what they can do is insane. Knowing what plays to run, just because of a look or what happened, it's impressive. And it's something I'm going to have to learn, and I'll follow as I, learn behind some coordinators, and, hopefully it'll be something I fall into. But yeah, head coach, director of recruiting, somewhere down that line.
Well, you've been coached by some of the best, head coach, offensive coordinator. I mean, Ryan Carty was one of the best OCs, and now he's doing his thing at Delaware. You talked about recruiting. Of course, you go to these huge schools, recruiting is a lot different. How different is recruiting at Sam compared to a huge school like an A&M, Houston, just in the area?
I think the hardest thing is you don't have a lot of options compared to A&M and UT. The way it is UT and A&M, they get a giant pool of players that they can pick from because they are the prominent schools. And for Sam Houston, because we jumped into FBS, it's kind of a weird cycle. When we were in FCS, we were the top FCS in Texas. So we got a lot of the players that were kind of in that FCS range that we could jump on, maybe some low 3 stars, maybe a couple 3 stars if we could. But now that we're FBS, we're competing with everybody again. And unfortunately, the way it is and the way it goes, because of our record last year and just being so new in FBS, we're kind of at the bottom of the group of Texas FBS schools. So you have to put in a lot of time recruiting. You have to be very specific with who you want. And I'm not saying we can't get big players, because we have, and we've shown it. We've seen some big commitments, but it's going to be a lot harder because now you're competing with UTSA. You're competing with Texas State. You're competing with North Texas. And Texas State, they just won a bowl game. They had a great season. They're doing a great job in recruiting. I follow GJ Kinney because his whole staff was from UIW, and they recruited me before they jumped over to Texas State. So I kind of know the staff. I know the people there, and they do a great job. And so we're competing with all those different groups of teams. And then, of course, you have Texas, you have A&M, where if you're recruiting a guy, and all of a sudden Texas comes in just like that, you're out. And it sucks. It's a really tough process because you could be hard on a guy. You could be recruiting a guy in the beginning and before anybody has heard of him, and you got him like, okay, we really like him. All of a sudden he gains a couple pounds and A&M comes around. Next thing you know, you're out. And so it's really interesting. It's really fun, but it's hard. It's hard at Sam Houston because, like I said, we're fighting against every FBS school in Texas, which are a lot. And then in the group of 5 realm, we're fighting against, 5 or 6 other teams that all want the same people.
What has it been? What is the perspective of recruiting? Because obviously you got recruited, but you got recruited in a different time. I mean, it was 6 years ago, but that was when NIL and the transfer portal was starting to become a thing. There was like rumors about it, but then over the next couple of years, it became reality. Just what has that perspective been like for you?
Man, it's been interesting because I was on the cups of NIL, and I wasn't making a lot of money, but me and Humphreys kind of started, I wouldn't say started, but with Walk On Radio, we were kind of the first people at Sam Houston to really take advantage of NIL. We had our podcast with the Believe Podcast Network, and they started running our deals. And so we were kind of the first 2 people to really acknowledge it. And I give Humphreys all the credit in the world. He really helped me out with that and really took advantage and said, let's do this. And so now NIL, you see people making millions of dollars. And unfortunately, Sam Houston, we don't have that kind of budget where they're going to be able to offer a kid $10 million or not even $50,000. So it's a tough process because you can have a big recruit that, man, I love Sam Houston, I love Huntsville, I want to be here, but I'm asking for $30,000, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we don't do that. What I really respect about Coach Keeler is his NIL goes to his players. His NIL goes to his guys that have been there, that have earned it. And so when it comes to NIL, I know that NIL is in the process and it is part of the recruiting process, but for most of the part, it's going to players that have earned it, that have been on the team. So it's really hard. It's hard to recruit like that. And then the same with the portal. You want to get portal guys, you have to bring in some money. And, with the portal, there's so many options. And I remember being there the day the portal opened, and my job was to put every offensive lineman on this sheet. And I was refreshing. And every time I refreshed, 20 more players would show up. And so it's a busy process. It's a lot of work to do. But with an NIL, if you don't have the money, you have to have something. And I think what's really good about Sam Houston is what they don't have with NIL, they have with family. They have a group of a coaching staff that is so close-knit. They make you want to be there. And, I give all the credit in the world to all the coaches on our staff because they're just such good guys that make these players want to come. And you've seen our defensive staff, how many recruits they've been able to get. And it's all because that group is a family. Coach Cassidy, when he came in, he really brought that group around and he brought that staff in and has such a good staff, such a good close-knit group. And you're able to get guys. And if you can't have NIL, you got to have something else that brings people in.
So,
What's it like seeing-
obviously,
Go ahead,
go ahead, Collin.
No, go ahead, Luke.
So obviously, Sam Houston was in the Southland, the WAC, now Conference USA. When you're talking about recruiting in the transfer portal and out of high school, how different is the quality athlete have to be compared from the Conference USA to the WAC and the WAC to the Southland? Like, how much of a gap in talent level is there?
Well, man, you'd be surprised the gap level from FCS to FBS nowadays because of the transfer portal. You see a lot of bounce backs end up in FCS. And my time at UIW being in the Southland again, I mean, we're facing, of course, not almost same caliber, but we're facing guys. We're facing a lot of bounce backs from Texas. We had some Texas bounce backs. You're facing guys that have played at that level. Now, I think the biggest difference between FBS and FCS is size. And you kind of saw that last year with the offensive line. It comes down to size. And that is a year process, a 2-3 year process of bringing in guys. I think the biggest difference is offense and defensive line. The high school guys that you bring in just have to be a little bit bigger. They have to be a little bit faster. And thank goodness for the transfer portal, you can do that. You can bring in, 2 or 3 guys that you like, in high school to develop, and then you can also bring in 2-3 transfer guys that can start right away. But the biggest difference is size. In Texas, speed is nothing. Every school has speed. You can find speed everywhere. Size is what you need. You need some big guys, and that's why North Dakota State is always so good. North Dakota, South Dakota State, and FCS is because no one recruits up there in the north. So they get all these pickings of these corn-fed guys that are just these ginormous offensive and defensive line, and they're running through everybody. You can see it in the gameplay and in the national champion. So, I think size is the big difference in FCS and FBS, but with the transfer portal, I think the gap has tightened a little bit, especially in, the Sun Belt, Conference USA, and the MAC, and then the Missouri Valley, your Southlands, and even the United Atlantic League, the brand new one with Abilene and all those in Tarleton. It's starting to close a little bit because of the transfer portal.
You talk about size. One of the things I noticed when you got back to Sam this past spring, one of the most common posts you make was guys hitting the weight room, the O-line getting stronger. Just what was that process? What was that process like for the guys? Because the O-line, those trenches. Like you said, it really does matter at this level.
Yeah, and like you said, at the end of the day, you saw the tape last year. It came down to size, and we got a brand new strength coach and Coach Shad. I love Coach Whiteman, Coach Parker Whiteman. He was my strength coach for a majority of my time there, and he did a great job. And he is a great coach, an even better person. But Coach Shad came in and really emphasized the strength. Coach Keeler has emphasized about the trenches and being strong. And so that's been our big point, is get the guys stronger. And I think Ethan Hagler and Seth Colsheen, two of the leaders of the offensive line, they made a good point between the guys and said, hey, we saw what happened last year. We seen the tape. It's time to get bigger. And they've all put in a lot of work. Markendrick Beal, he did so much work this offseason, got so much better. James Don, Will McCollum, they're all doing a lot of things just to get better. And even the young guys, like I mentioned before, Colt Dietrich, Will Hutchins, these guys are all getting better because they know that their time is coming too. At any point, your time can get called. And so the weight room was a big emphasis for the offensive line. And then on the defensive side, I can't speak because I was majority paying attention to the O-line, but same thing. They had a great start on the defensive side of the ball on the non-conference game. And in the conference games, you kind of see towards the fourth quarter, things would shut down a little bit and you'd see some struggle. And so they put a lot of emphasis on finishing. At the end of the day, the big thing that we saw, and this is from, thank God that Conference USA has the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday premieres or show times, because being an athlete still, I was able to watch all of Sam's game, and you can see it. They did really well. They would fight the whole game, even against Liberty, the supposed one of the top group of 5 teams. And in the fourth quarter or in overtime, they would lose, right? And that's the way it is. And Coach Keeler loved to say during spring ball, you can't change that. That's who we are. Until this next season, until we change that, that's who we are. Losing in the fourth quarter, losing in overtime. And so it all becomes down to finishing, whether that's conditioning, whether that's the last rep in the weight room. These guys have pushed and made it apparent to them that they want to finish and they need to finish. And you can see it translate in the weight room, in conditioning, and then during spring ball.
Yeah. Tell you what, as being in the student section as a fan, watching on TV, that was so frustrating. Just Sam always being so close. It was always just felt like, a couple plays away from getting that win. And you talk about it, losing the fourth quarter, that's who we were. It's a great spot to be right now because that's all your motivation. That's all you can think about. And people might take it for granted, and you can really, surprise a lot of guys and a lot of teams coming forward this next year. I want to move to quarterback play. Keegan Shoemaker's gone, and now we think it's going to be Jace Bauer. What kind of do you think on his side? What have you kind of seen from him, if you have seen any, and just kind of talking about that quarterback room?
Yeah, man, I'm very excited for the quarterback battle. And, Jace Bauer has been the projected starter, but it's still really a 3-way battle. It's a 3-way battle between him, Hunter Watson, and Grant Gunnell. And all 3 guys bring something to the table. Jace Bauer is so good in the pocket. He's been there before. He's a veteran of the game. He had a great season last year. And then Hunter Watson is just a freaking freak athlete. That man can run around. A lot of similarities to Eric Schmid. We like to say that Eric Schmid and Trapper Pennell had a baby. It'd be Hunter Watson. And then Grant Gunnell, another veteran of the game. He's been on this offense before. He knows this system, Coach Cornelson's system. And so I think either way, we're in a great spot. I think Keegan did a great job last year. Of course, there were some interceptions that shouldn't have been thrown and some mistakes that should have been made, but you can see in that back half of the season, he got really comfortable. And so it's going to come down to which quarterback is most comfortable in Coach Corn's offense. It's a difficult offense. There's a lot of checks that need to be made. There's a lot of variations of plays. And so it's going to come down to who can be the smartest. Coach Corn wants a guy that can communicate with him and that can go back and forth and can understand and say, well, this is what I saw. This is what I think. And so I think either way, we're going to be in great shape. It's going to come down to the quarterback play, offensive line play, and our running play because our receivers are great. We've seen the receivers. We've seen the potential with them. So can everybody else catch up? And I think if the offensive line can get some movement, we can run the ball a little bit, we're going to be in good shape.
What do you think about the tight end room?
Man, I could go on about the tight ends for an hour. This is the best tight end room Sam has seen in a long time. And I guess that could be a dig at myself, but these guys, this looks like a real tight end room. I mean, you got Elijah Sohn. This guy, he started his first year in 2022, which was my last year. And he was very athletic, being a swimmer, but he didn't know his lefts and rights. He couldn't run around to save his life. He couldn't block, and he's going to give me a hard time for dogging on him. But the improvement he's made, he's now an NFL caliber tight end. And that comes down to his work ethic, and it also comes down to Coach Merkins, who has been a tight ends coach for a long time. He was my tight ends coach. I could say a million good things about him. But also the people that we brought in have been great. Fernando Garza and Austin Smith, tight end transfers from Texas A&M and Memphis. They all bring competition within each other. Then you have Thomas Jewett. He got hurt at the end of the year, but he's back now, and he's an athletic guy that's hungry to play. And so this allows us to jump into 12 personnel, even 13 personnel, and that's where Corn wants to be. He wants to be a 12 personnel offense. He wants to have if you have a good tight end in this offense, you're going to be able to roll. And Elijah Sohn can do that. Fernando Garza can do that. Austin Smith can do that. Thomas Jewett can do that. They can all do it. So now we have multiple options for Ys and H's. If we want to put someone at Y to run the route, we have a guy that can go in at H and block. And so I'm super excited. Even Braden Howell, he's a great blocker. He's been with me for a long time. He can go in there and play fullback now. So now we have a fullback. We can go 13. We can even go 14 if we want. So I am so excited for the tight ends. I can't wait to see what Coach Merkins does with them. And, I don't know who the starter is going to be. It's left it open for a four-way battle for the starter. Of course, Elijah Sohn was a starter last year and had a couple touchdowns. And so he might get the nod, but anybody could play in that group right now. And that's what makes me super excited for that group. And I love the tight ends. Of course, I'm a little biased, but being able to work with them and being out there with those guys, it just had me fired up.
Yeah, Son was one of those guys that every week he was so much better and better and better. And you could really see defenses really had a rough time trying to find a way to stop him, because also at the same time, the running game throughout the later part of the year kind of started to click a little bit more. The offensive line just got used to that more size you were talking about. And it was a real weapon that we could use them. Obviously, the receiving core, a lot of returners. Adai's back. Smith will be there. So many different guys. If you look at the whole Conference USA, where do you think the talent-wise Sam Houston's whole offensive package is compared to the rest?
It's tough. I think if we're talking talent-wise, we're probably middle of the pack. We're probably about 4 or 5. I would still probably put Liberty. I'd put Liberty up there. In terms of offense, Western Kentucky has always had a great offense. Now they bring TJ Finley. I think we have the talent. We have the capability of doing it. We proved it last year with our ability to be close in games. And the biggest example is Liberty, the number 1 team in Conference USA. We brought them down to the wire. And I think with everybody healthy, with Noah Smith and Ife Adai, Quavez Humphreys, Michael Phoenix, we're going to have a really good offensive weaponry. And then in the running back room, John Gentry and Zach Rabacek, if they can get down and do what they're doing, I'm really excited. I think for me, the big thing is how Coach Cassidy's defense is going to do. You know, we haven't got to. I got to see Coach Cassidy's defense in the spring, and I'm not going to spoil anything because you never know if Rice is listening. And so I'm excited to see them in action. They were really good in the transfer portal. They got some big guys on the D line, and they were able to help out their secondary. So I'm excited to see how they do. Coach Morris's defense did a great job in the beginning. They were nationally ranked for a while. And so it's going to be interesting. We have the talent, we have the capabilities, and we have the motivation. It's just finish. Can these guys finish at the end of the day? Can they go all the way and finish in the fourth quarter?
Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah. Finishing, of course, that's just experience at the end of the day, especially at a new level. So I kind of want to transition now, not looking at it from a football side, but a whole athletics program side. As a former student, did you graduate from Sam Houston?
Yes.
Okay, so you graduated. So alumni, where do you want to see the entire athletics program move in a direction? Of course, they just had the rebrand, new logo, they're upgrading facilities. What more needs to happen to really elevate Sam Houston?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to continue finishing the field. Of course, we're getting the new turf field, and that's a plus. But you know, obviously the stands, we need some more, and with more stands, we need attendance. And I think one of our big things right now is, you know, obviously the way it is we don't have a lot of fans at our games. Now, whether that's winning, whether that's promoting it more, you know, it comes down to marketing. There's a lot of different things, and those are above my pay grade. I couldn't tell you the answer to those, but you need to have the look, and I think we're doing that with the logo, and you need to have the marketing, which I think the Twitter is doing a great job. Social media is social media. That's what you got to do, and I think they've done a great job, but there needs to be more. I think other too is other sports. You know, my ex-girlfriend was on the volleyball team. She's one of their captains, and she complains all the time that football gets everything. What about volleyball? And so I know they're building the tennis complex. They're working on the softball field. You know, maybe upgrade the basketball stadium a little bit. I love Johnson Coliseum, but it could probably use some upgrades there if you ask the basketball players. So just continuing to elevate every sport, because football, you know, football is going to do its job, but we want to win in every sport. We want volleyball to win. We want baseball and softball to win. Track and field's getting their brand new own area because they're taking out the track. So it all comes down to building and promoting. Can you get fans in the stands? You know, we can't be an FBS program and have only 2,000, 3,000 fans in the stand. Our stadium fits 14,000 right now. We have to be able to fill those seats, just like we did during the national championship run. I mean, I remember seeing pictures of that, and the stands were insane, and it's because we were winning. So with winning comes fans, and if you're not winning, you have to do something to promote. Why do people want to come to the games if you're not winning games? So it comes down to a whole bunch of things, but I have all the faith in Bobby Williams and Casey Keeler and everything that they're doing. And like I said, excited for all the sports and to see when I come down in 5 years, how different is Huntsville going to look? It already looks way different now. The turf itself is going to make the field look so much different. I don't even know how if I get to go step on that field, it's going to feel weird not having a track. So they're making steps, and a lot of things need to be done, but they're on the right direction.
Luke, you got any more?
I'm good, Collin.
Well, Dalton, before we wrap things up, just anything you would like to say that we didn't ask you?
No, I'm super excited for Sam Houston. I mean, the games that they have this year are super exciting. Against Rice will be a great game. NRG against Texas State, the new rivalry, the H-Town Showdown. I'm super fired up. That'll probably be my favorite game. Of course, you have Coach Morris coming back, facing against New Mexico State. There's a lot of good games. A rematch against Liberty. This is going to be an exciting season. Can they do it? I'm excited. It's some of my best friends last year. Like I said, I keep saying his name, Ethan Hagler. His last go around. Super excited for him and all the seniors. We're kind of wrapping up the people that were part of the national championship team, which is crazy. making me feel really old, but super excited. It's going to be a great year. You know, wherever I'm at, I'll always be a Sam alum. I'll always have my national championship with me. I got both of my jerseys framed, and they'll always follow me wherever I move around to. So I'm a proud of Sam alum. I love my UIW Cardinals. They're going to have a great season in the Southland. Can't wait to follow them. They're going to have a national championship run. So I got a lot of sports to look to. I'm excited. I haven't got to sit down and watch College game day on a Saturday without having to get ready for a game. So I'm excited. Thank y'all for having me on here, and I'll be around at any time y'all need me.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so right now I'm on Twitter, Dalton Meyer 85. My Instagram is dmeyer50. I post a lot. I post a lot of stuff, and right now I'm posting NCAA 25. That's going to be my game for a while. Maybe I'll start streaming it. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But when that game comes out, you're not going to see a lot. But those are my socials. You can follow me on there and see me talk about whatever, mostly football.
Who's the first team you're going to rebuild, huh?
So I brought it down to my Final Four. I got Sam Houston, Texas State, Western Kentucky, and East Carolina. And I'm leaning towards Texas State just because I never finished a dynasty on 14 with them because I kept quitting. I kept giving up because how bad they were in 14, and I just couldn't get over the hump. So I'm hoping that their record's better because of the season that they had. And so I might avenge myself with Texas State. Of course, I'll make a Sam Houston dynasty at some point, but I think the first one is Texas State just so I can feel better about myself.
Man, Texas State. I'm from Georgia. I have a bunch of friends that go down to San Marcos. They all went there. For the size of the school and it's a huge party school. You would think they would have been really, really good with a lot of sports. They just never was able to.
Their recruiting should have been crazy. They have the river. It's a beautiful campus. And it's just been down the coaching. They haven't had some good coaches in a while, but finally, G.J. Kinney, he's finally brought it back with the Take Back Texas and their staff. And like I said, if you win, they'll come. And all of a sudden, they start winning games. And now all of a sudden, they're the big topic of Texas. So it'll be a fun year for them, too. They'll have a lot of expectations in his sophomore season. Is he going to be able to do it again and hopefully get into that 12 seed playoffs? We got big new playoffs coming in. Can they be the group of 5 team that jumps in there?
Well, maybe Texas State goes and hires a national champion. Maybe they'll hire you.
If they get that high, it'll be just like my video game because I'm gonna bring them to the national championship too.
I had this talk with Luke a few days ago. I said that H-Town Showdown is going to be the biggest game of the season. When you look at it right now, obviously there's going to be bigger games down the line. Deciding if you're going to go bowling or not, or if you're going to be in the championship game for the Conference USA or not. But recruiting wise, that Texas State game is pretty big.
Yeah, not only is it big because of recruiting, but just being at NRG, and it doesn't matter the game. Even the beginning years, before Carthel got to SFA, when we played in the Piney Woods game, and we were destroying them, it still packed the house because it was such a big game. Then when Carthel showed up, all of a sudden SFA is in the running, and both games were super good, super close. So just the atmosphere of NRG, and with the success that Texas State had, they're going to pack the house. And I know we're going to pack the house like we always do. So it's going to be a crazy game. I'll definitely, if I can, I'll be there. And it's going to be exciting. Can we stop the Kinney air raid? That'll be the big question. How their new quarterback's going to be, how our defense is going to be. It's going to be quite the matchup. And I definitely think it's the biggest game of the season.
Well, on that note, we end this one right here. Dalton, you have cemented yourself. You have the honor of being the first special guest on the Sam Houston Sports Talk podcast. I know me and Luke, both of us, really appreciate you having coming on here today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be the first guest, and hopefully you can find some people better than me. But I'm super excited. I can't wait to keep watching, and thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dalton.
Yeah. Well, that was Dalton Meyer. For Luke Scott, I'm Collin Neill saying so long for now. Keep your eyes open for the next Sam Houston Sports Talk podcast, and we will see you then. As always, like and subscribe and follow us on all social medias, and also check out Dalton Meyer as well. Once again, thank you, Dalton Meyer, for being our first special guest on the Sam Houston SportsTalk Podcast. Once again, as always, eat 'em up, cats.